Do you believe in intuition? According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the definition of intuition is the ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning. It's also related to instincts. So I've had enough experiences to tell me that intuition is real and that there's something more than just my conscious mind that's guiding me to make good decisions. Maybe it's the blink effect. Maybe it's truly an inner knowing. But whatever it is, it sure comes in handy when you're out in nature. Whether you're trying to find a rare species or you might have gotten turned around and lost your way, our intuition can help guide us to find what we're looking for. Join me today during the Mindful Bird Sit as we practice this fascinating and very helpful skill. Hey there, welcome to the Mindful Bird Sit. If you're new here, my name is Kristi, and I help people connect deeply with birds and nature while boosting their skills, elevating their confidence, and helping them to fall more in love with life. If that's something you'd like to do, please consider subscribing and sticking around. You can also check out any number of my online courses, like Identify Any Bird Anywhere. All right, let's get started. So I'll start us off this week with a story from a swamp. So a lot of you know that I'm doing some work this summer uh, in North Carolina studying birds. And I work with a partner, and we work in these transects, and we start at the same point, but then we each walk opposite directions from each other. And it's about 1 to 2 miles that we walk. So virtually I spend like the whole time I'm out there, which is anywhere from 3 to 5 hours alone. It's just me, my GPS, and the birds and nature. And this one day, my one of my points was like right at the edge of a swamp, and then the next point was like through the swamp. Um, and I I thought like yeah. And so I was like, well, gosh, they've done this like every year in a row. So they must have done this. So like, I just thought, all right, there's a stream crossing, and I've heard about them talking about you. Sometimes you have to cross the stream. So, I looked in the map and I was like, all right. And the map I'm looking at doesn't have like the Google Maps over it. It's just like, I forget what you call it when it's just a layer of like the most basic layers where it shows like some blue lines to indicate like potential water, but that's it. Um, so anyway, so I crossed the stream. I actually like fell into my up to my knees in mud. So I'm like all muddy and gross and like wet, and then I was like tired at this point. I was like halfway through the transect, and I realized at this point that I was like kind of what I was getting into. I was like, I am in the swamp now. Like I can't go back and like try to find a point that goes all the way around. Like I think I'm gonna have to go through the swamp. And so I start walking some more, and I'm just like falling, and like I fell on my butt, I got wet anyway. Um and and so I was just like I was so distraught, and I was like nervous too. I thought like I'm stuck. Like I'm gonna get I had a GPS, so I knew like I wasn't totally lost, but I just felt like how am I gonna get out of the swamp, you know? And and so I just said to myself, I was like, great, practice what you preach, you know? So I just said, let me quiet myself, feel some gratitude and appreciation, first of all, for the fact that I'm in this incredible environment by myself. It's so beautiful. Um, and so I just felt gratitude, and I just asked a question. I just said to the universe, the world, I said, please just find me a path out of here to solid ground. That's all I asked. Just kept it really simple. Please find me a path out of here to solid ground. And within the next moment, I look kind of on the ground and I see like, oh, there's a really pretty flower over there. So I'm kind of like, getting a little distracted. And then as I see that, I saw the flower, I noticed that there actually was a deer trail right there. And I thought, huh, I think that's my answer. Cause I looked ahead and I could see that the deer trail went like, up through the marsh and like kind of through the thicket and whatnot. And and I said, I think this is my answer. I'm going to follow this deer trail. And in fact, it did. It led me like in the clearest path out of the swamp that I was in. And so what I want to do with us today um, is to help us trust our intuition some more, and to practice like using and working with our intuition, um, so that when we're in circumstances like I was, or maybe you just want to find a cool bird, like whatever question it is that is inspiring to you to ask um, the world for, and learning to listen for the reply, then do that, you know? So today we're going to practice. We're just going to try it out and see how it goes. And so for those of you who are sitting inside today, it's going to be just fine because we're going to mostly be using our felt sense, so our body and our eyes. We'll be opening our eyes at certain points. So most of the time we're going to have our eyes closed. And the intention is actually to not use your ears. You might even, if you want to, like get earplugs or like put something over your ears, because I think the ears are sort of like they might trick you. And then it might be hard to know, like, was it my ears that told me that I should open my eyes, or was it like my gut feeling? But you don't have to do that. Certainly, there's another benefit of of not Anyway, you'll see at the end. So let's go ahead and get grounded first. So go ahead and take a nice deep breath in, and you can close your eyes just to start off. And just start to, you can probably hear my robin in the background. You can just start to just feel your body right now. Just notice as your eyes close, or feel your breath, I'm sorry, feel your breath, noticing where it travels to in your body. Good. And as you travel with your breath, go ahead and just notice all the places that it does touch. And as you take this nice deep breath in, you're just exploring the reaches of your breath and of your body and giving yourself permission just to be here right now. You've decided you're going to be here. And so for the next 30 minutes or so, give yourself that permission to just be present, to be here. You can let go for the next little bit of anything you were worrying about earlier, anything you were thinking you had to do, after the call, after the session. Just let that go right now. Just let yourself be present and be here with us. Great work. So now that you've been sitting with your breath for a few moments, go ahead and on your next breath in, we're going to imagine it's coming in through the crown of our head. Take a nice deep breath in and let it travel all the way through your body. See where if it can like go all the way down your hips, your legs, your knees, your calves, and then exit. Allow your exhale to go through your feet, the soles of your feet down to the earth. And just imagine, just start to feel that connection right there from the soles of your feet to the earth. You might physically feel your socks or your shoes. You might even feel the floor underneath you. But just notice if you can begin to feel the earth beneath your feet and see if there's any thoughts or images that come to your mind as you are tapping into that. All right, good work. And now keep going deeper. See, and some of you may just feel like you wanted to stay kind of at the surface level of the earth connection right now. Some of you may want to go nice and deep into the soil where the roots are, where the worms are, and wherever it is that's calling to you right now. Let yourself just go there and just be in the stillness that is the earth today. All right, good, good. So in the next moment, I'm going to have you open your eyes, but right now just keep them closed. Let yourself just feel. Actually, we will start first since we're here with our eyes closed already. Go ahead and take your awareness to the area just below your belly button. And in some traditions, they believe that this is the center point of our body, our energy point, of our source point. And so let yourself just feel this part of your body right now. That's good. And now we're going to start to stretch our awareness to the outside of our body. So you might first begin to feel your skin touching your shirt or your pants. And remember to feel to your backside as well. So even though you're focused on that center point right below your belly button, also becoming aware of your side and your back body as well. And then we'll start to slowly, as if you could imagine like maybe that you're laying on top of one of those like sitting those balls that people sit on for like work or for at their desk. Or that if you stretch your arms out you made like a really big ball around you. This is going to be kind of like a bubble that's around you right now. And what I want you to do is see if you can feel into that bubble. Notice if you feel anything in that zone around your body. Lovely. Good work. So now start to stretch out your sense of feeling, just the felt sense, not necessarily the tactile, tangible felt sense, but more the energetic feeling of what's around you. And even if you don't believe that you can do that, even if you're like, this is crazy, this is woo woo, whatever it is, if you're someone that has that going through your mind, but you're still here, just choose to play with this today. Just if you can allow yourself to just be a kid again and someone's just guiding you through something that's safe. We're not going to go anywhere dangerous and you're just going to play. So imagine that you could feel with your body the energetics of what's around you. You can feel. And some people have this experience where if you ever have your eyes closed or even like you're looking forward and all of a sudden someone comes up right behind you, you can feel them before you know they're there. Like kind of if they like were going to surprise you, you might turn around quick and think like, who's that? You know, um, our bodies can feel each other, like other things around us. So we're just going to stretch and start to explore that right now. So see how far out. And again, you might just play with that zone close to you, but just slowly start to expand further and further and further and see where that kind of that boundary is for you. How far out can you stretch? All right, really good work. So now we're going to just gently and slowly open your eyes and allow your gaze to fall on something that's within 10 to 20 feet of you and find one point, one focal point to focus your eyes on. And then as if you were to drop a pebble right in that spot and that there was water all around you, you're going to slowly allow your vision to soften as you watch each ripple expand further and further and further out in your visual field. And just start to see how far out you can actually stretch your vision on either side, above and below, and let yourself stay in this vision for a few minutes. And then as we're sitting here, as you start to soften your vision, you may begin to notice that it does literally get soft and it also might become blurry. So allow the blur. I know oftentimes we're like, no, I have to focus, I have to see clearly. But the gift of this practice of owl eyes is to use the softened vision to allow yourself to pick up and perceive really subtle motions. So let's play with that for just a couple of minutes right now. Good work. All right. Now, just notice the different sort of layers of movement that you're able to see with this softened vision. Notice if any part of you has become softer as well, if your thoughts, your mind, your breath. It's often one of the benefits of going into this softened vision is that other parts of us soften as well. Mhm. All right. So now we're going to go into the practice, and there's a couple things to think about with that. So the first is that the process that I usually like to take myself through with this is number one is to ask the question. So whatever question it is you want to ask of the, well, actually first it's to quiet our minds, right? Which we just did. So getting quiet first, then ask the question, then taking the time to listen for the response or the reply, which might come in a few different forms. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then to trust the answer and to go with it. So today, our question as a group, what we're going to ask is to ask the world or the universe, whatever you want to call it, to show us something that's would pique our curiosity, maybe a little bit more than just like a typical interest or typical curiosity. Like maybe it's a hawk diving down about to like take a bird or something, or maybe it's like the most interesting caterpillar you've ever seen in your life, or maybe it's like a neighbor walking by that was kind of unexpected. So whatever it is for you, it could be anything. Just keep your mind open to possibilities. And so what we're going to do is we're going to close our eyes. And again, if you feel safe and comfortable to do this, that would be ideal, kind of the most like fun, I think, for this process. So close your eyes. And then as our eyes are closed, you're going to ask that question. And we just kind of asked it as a group too, but you'll ask the question. And you could have a different question as well. If something different, if there's something that's like closer to your heart right now that you want an answer to, you can ask that question as well and then look for guidance in the world. And then what you're going to do is not when you hear a sound, this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. So it's not so much like, oh, I hear a noise over there. I'm going to open my eyes and look to see what it is. Of course, if you're outside and you feel like it's a safety issue, definitely open your eyes and take a look. But for the most part, what you're going to do is you're going to keep your eyes closed until you have an intuitive hit, something in your body, maybe it's your mind, tells you, open your eyes now. It might even give you a sense of like where to look. And so, and you might end up with your eyes closed for a long time. It might happen right away. We're all going to be different in how we experience this. So let's start with the first round. And we'll all begin by closing our eyes. And then I'll let you sit this way for about 3 or 4 minutes in silence and just play. Remember, we're just kids, we're just playing. There's no right and wrong. You can't get this wrong. All right? Okay, have fun. All right, good work. So go ahead and keep your eyes closed for now. And I'll just encourage you that it is easy in this practice for our minds to get quite involved and to wonder, is this the right thing? Should I open my eyes now? Maybe wait. How do I know? So if that's going on for you, then the thing that I find helpful is to go back to that center point in my belly and start to expand my sense of awareness of my body as far out as I can reach and stretch, and just keep telling myself I can. Like, I can feel the world around me. I can feel the world around me. And even if you're someone who doesn't believe in that, just if you want to play with this right now and just say, I don't know, I don't believe it, but I'm just going to pretend like I can, I don't believe I can feel the world around me, but let's just see what happens. So let's keep going on with this practice. So keep your eyes closed and we'll be silent for another couple of minutes. All right. Good job, everybody. So keep your eyes closed still. We're going to go into one other layer with this. Now, some of you might have the experience where you have just like a gut feeling. You have a feeling to open your eyes. Others might see an image. Others might have a thought, or I don't want to say hear a sound because we're doing our best to not like, sort of like let our ears guide us with this one. Um, Rather it's our felt sense. So yeah, so see if there's a feeling, a thought, an image. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it might just be like you feel like you want to like rub your eye or scratch your nose or something, or like all of a sudden, I don't know, you have this like inclination to like look at the pen or something, or look at your phone. And that's the thing that's telling, like, it's giving you sort of permission to open your eyes, in that moment. So again, just play with it. So we'll keep our eyes closed and do this practice for another couple of minutes. All right. So in the next moment or two, just go ahead and gently open your eyes. Good work. Allow yourself to just be quiet for the next minute or two to take in the world around you. Just let yourself stay nice and soft and gentle. And then during this time, you can also offer a blessing or a gratitude to all those ones that you connected with today. All right, beautiful. I almost got lost there in my reverie. So, thank you everyone for coming. Anyone who needs to go, I just am grateful that you were here with us, and we'll see you next time. And for those of you who'd like to stay for our chat, please do so. And so we'll begin and open it up for whoever likes to share. So, who would like to share their experience today? And I can see you pushing the
Yeah,
buttons.
I'm pushing the button. It kind of started with owl eyes, and I was just wondering. I'm looking around for people who wear glasses when I do owl eyes, and then that's that other limiting when you go and you're trying to see because you're not used to focusing outside your lens frame. And it was just fun to notice that today that when I was doing it, how far I was seeing beyond, because normally to see something, you have to turn your eyes because that's where your glasses are. But today, I mean, Kelly wears glasses. I see, some other people do. And when you do owl eyes, you're not only going, but it's not corrected vision even. So it's already blurry. So I was just thinking about the experience of doing that when you do owl eyes, and because my eyes normally want to stop right there at that edge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I mean, it's like, it's something else to overcome when you do owl eyes.
How was that for you? Were you able to see anything in your peripheral? It doesn't have to be not blurry, but just were you able to have awareness
Yeah,
outside of
and that's what it is it's
yeah.
making you be aware farther than stopping at that point, right? Noticing motion, colors. I'm putting my hands here now,
Yeah.
you know where my brain wants to make it stop.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's beautiful. I feel like that can open up all sorts of doors
mm-hmm.
in many ways for you. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Anne. That's great. Right on. All right. Who else wants to share? Yeah, Linda, go for it. Then Gabrielle. Trying to see everybody's hands here.
Okay. Um, well, it was really interesting. At first, my mind is just a jumble of lots of stuff. It's been really busy for me the last few weeks, but it was really good to be able to start letting go of it all. And I remember from the last time you talked about accessing your intuition through your senses, what you see, feel, hear. And I've been doing that when I need a break. If I'm really busy, I take a couple of minutes and just go sit outside or poke my head outside or walk or whatever and just pay attention to what do I see, feel, hear, um, and smell. So I thought of that while I was doing that, and I was remembering times when I had the same experience you were describing this morning, where you're in a situation where you couldn't see, you couldn't figure out where you were, or you didn't know if you were lost, or and that something just guides you when you ask, when you open yourself to that. Um, I always ask my heart. So it was very interesting to do this now, and open my eyes. And every time I opened my eyes after being still, um, I focused on trees, and I did see a bird, and which was really cool because I didn't notice them when I first came out, but that's because my mind was in a jumble. So that was good. And I noticed the starlings are back. They've been cleaning out my feeders, like, so a mixed blessing, but nevertheless a blessing. So,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
That's
Anyway,
great.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there was a couple of woodpeckers here, and there were a couple of robins, and I heard a meadowlark. So anyway, it was very fun. I really enjoyed doing it at a time when, there wasn't something that I needed to hear. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I
Thank you very much.
yeah, yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for sharing that. You brought up one of like the secret pieces that happens with this practice that at least happened for me when I was doing it myself this morning because I did it after I did yoga this morning. I was like, well, let me just try it myself and see what happens and see if it'll even work. Um, and the thing I found was that there was two sort of like hidden gifts that occurred for me. One was how much quieter I got. I felt like I got much more deeply quiet and
Hmm.
still within my mind and my body without trying. I was like trying to feel what was around me, and use my intuition. But because of that, everything got quieter, almost in like quicker than I normally do with just like a sense meditation. And
Mm.
um I don't know why that was. And the other thing was I actually was hearing way more. I was like sort of trying not to listen because I was like, I don't want the hearing to like trick me or to like to be the thing that causes me to look. I want to see if it's like a gut feeling. But because of that, I was hearing way more. So I think that's the other sort of secret gift of doing this kind of a practice is that like our sense of hearing actually does get heightened, almost like we're not trying to do it, but like it happened. Like for me anyway, it happened, and uh, yeah, yeah, that was the fun part of it for me. Yeah, thank you, Linda. Thanks for your
Yeah,
share. Yeah,
you bet. I hear a cardinal back there. I love those. I love those cardinals.
I know, I know.
Send them here.
And yeah, they might be there. I think feel like every once in a while there's a cardinal that shows up out west.
Yeah, every
Yeah,
once in a while.
every once
Mhm.
in a while. Yeah. All right.
Even in Montana.
Yeah. Oh, Gabrielle, you were next. Yeah, go for it. I just okay.
It's funny that you're talking about sound because I was so distracted by the sounds, like, oh, yeah, that's the direction you have to look in. But I didn't want that to be, anyway, it was confusing. And so the two things that happened that were really interesting is one was, when I was a kid, I used to really love to look at clouds and imagine what I saw. And so I was looking at a cloud, and it was this dog with this big, or wolf, or some canine with a big mouth. And then it turned into an elephant. So it was kind of fun. It was not what I expected to see. And then twice I saw a little hummingbird, and and everything was very flitting that I saw in, how a hummingbird goes really quickly. And so it was interesting, but there was this kind of, am I really feeling this, or am I imagining this, or, that kind of stuff. And,
Yeah.
because I do dream work with people, I'm really into the curiosity and the images. And so that kind of came up for me that that's something I do just naturally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's good. And I think that's for me, that's the good part, the helpful part about practicing when it doesn't matter is that we get to sort of play with it and just see like, was it my gut feeling? Was it? And sometimes, I also am a believer in the blink effect. Does anyone ever read the book The Blink? Blink, Blink. I think Malcolm Gladwell is the author of that. But it's just this idea that when you practice something for like over, I think like 1,000 hours or something, you become masterful at it, right? And what happens is that oftentimes people who do those kinds of things appear to others as though they're magicians. In his book, he gave this example of this woman. It was something like the Smithsonian had bought this piece of art for like $1 million. It was supposed to be some rare artifact. And then someone was like, I don't know, we should probably just get it like appraised by someone, because they believe that whatever, I forget how it happened. But they had this woman who was an expert. They flew her in. She came in, and within like 20 seconds, she looked at they unboxed the thing. She looked at it. She's like, "It's a fake." And they were like, "You didn't do any analysis. How do you know?" Blah, 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 blah. And like what she realized, and like through the process of figuring this out, was like she had been doing this for like 30, 40 years, like analyzing these ancient artifacts that she, like her brain just instantly knew like all the questions to ask, and she could distill it within like 2 seconds, you know? It's something that someone might be like, okay, let's check the box in this one and ask all the questions. And it might take them like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you know? So there might be that piece. This morning when I was doing this, one of the moments I opened my eyes, actually this gentleman and his dog were walking up the street, and like right where my eyes were, like my mind was like, look right there, you know. It was kind of like it told me like look in this particular spot. And so I did. I looked in this one particular area, and like that's where the guy and his dog were walking. And as I thought about that, and I thought, wow, like was that a gut feeling to just to like look right there, or was it the blink effect? Was it that somewhere in my like deep in my mind and in my body, like I heard some subtle sounds of the birds, you know, maybe heard some other things happening that like kind of pinpointed my mind to look right over there, you know, and things that I'm not even aware of right now that I've been training myself to like tap into. So I don't know. It kind of doesn't really matter either to me. It's just like whatever we think intuition is, whatever it really is for us. Yeah, I think it's really helpful to practice when it doesn't matter, because like that moment, like for me, when it felt like it mattered in the swamp, um, I knew I could trust it. I knew I could trust that guidance as long as my mind was quiet. I really did have to quiet myself first and then just say like, all right, you just asked, you were just given an answer, like now trust it, go with it, you know? Because I was like, oh, it's a deer trail. What if they step in place? And I'm like, shush, shush, like zip it, you know, just go. And yeah, anyway. Sweet. Anyone else want to share their experience from this morning? Thank you, Gabrielle. Thank you for yours. Yeah, Roberta, please. And then
Well,
Emery.
I wasn't quite sure exactly, but when I closed my eyes, I was realizing that, well, I had to isolate my vision and isolate my hearing in some way, not to get distracted. So then I felt like I went to my tactile sense. So then I felt like a cool air. But then, like everybody said, you just kind of like, I heard somebody walk by and I looked. But then I started kind of thinking about like the children that I work with who have autism, like how they're like in a way they really like they can't process language, so they have to rely on their auditory sense, but then they can get overwhelmed with their auditory sense and it's hard for them to shut that down. And then or the blind children, like they really have to tap into their sense of smell and hearing. And but I don't know, I'm just all kind of over the place because I think about how I present myself to the children. If I know that they're sensitive to something, then I try to approach them in a way that doesn't scare them or that they can take in whatever I'm presenting to them. So I think they probably go a lot like on, they're just like, they're like more like I think they have to go by their intuition too, like a lot more than maybe maybe we do. I, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's really beautiful to hear. I mean, for sure, I think we all, again, this is my own personal belief, but that like we use it even in times when we don't realize we're using it as modern humans, but certainly probably not as much as like natural peoples who lived off the land maybe used to, or autistic kids or blind kids and whatnot. And I think that one beautiful that gift I was speaking of, where it's like when even though like at first it's clunky, it's kind of like, am I doing this right? What's the thing? And where should I, you know, like when we can really just quiet ourselves and start to sort of listen through our body, um, that the world does start to come closer. I don't know if you guys heard, but that one moment that there was one point I was talking to you all, and there were two birds that like had landed right there, and they started talk like they just came in like really close, you know, and So anyway, yeah, I that's like one of the sweet gifts is that like, and like you're saying, the way you approach the kids when you know that they're sensitive to something or another, and we can do that when we approach the natural world. Like, not that the birds are necessarily sensitive to us, but like the rhythm of the natural world is just working at like a different sort of frequency than our modern life is. And so when we can learn to like operate at that frequency, we become less of a disturbance, you know, to those around us. Yeah. So whatever we can do to practice. This is just for like random fun, like let's just try it, you know. But if you all have something else that works better for you, then you know, keep practicing that. Yeah. And what a great opportunity, Roberta, that you get to work with the kids, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Anne Marie, you were going to say something.
Well, I'm not in my normal spot, so that was very different because I'm at the beach and staring out at dunes and trying to just figure out, okay, where what maybe I would want to look, or where would the space be to travel through. There were song sparrows, of course, at the beach, calling to each other, like they each have their certain area or dune. It's their spot with the brush, and one's on a yucca plant. And I'm like, okay, I'm expecting seagulls and things like that, but they're not calling so much right now. But the songbirds are, and did I know where they were flying in from, and where did they go after they were on their tall perch to sing? So I was trying to feel that, where did they then take cover, where were they feeding or foraging. So after they'd sing, I'd try to figure out where to look, see if I could find them. So it was fun. It was fun. I like it was definitely different not being in my normal spot. So yeah,
Yeah.
I could feel your sense of, okay, I really need to tap in when I'm not in a swamp right now. So it's like, but that would be important. Yeah.
Yeah, and that in some ways I think it's like sometimes it can be easier for me to practice things like this when I'm not in my typical environment because I feel like I have expectations when I'm in my like home zone, you know, because then I just like I know all the players, I know who everybody is. I sort of like I just have this like preconceived notion about how things are going to go. But when you're somewhere that like you're not used to being in, and it can be in on to some degree like almost easier because you're just like I don't know, like anything's possible, you know. We almost say like I think sometimes like our mind doesn't like allow anything to be possible when we're home because we're like we know everything that's possible, you know. I've seen it all. Yeah, sweet Emery, thank you, thank you. Have fun at the beach there. Who else would like to share? Yeah, Gabrielle. Let's actually, Gabrielle, I'll let Julia go because she hasn't gone yet, and then we'll take you one more time. Go for it, Julia.
Okay, just in time for the trash truck to go by. So about 30 years ago, I was working on my master's, and when I'd go on campus, there would be these mockingbirds in the Yopon hollies. And I enjoyed that so much that when I bought this house and this yard, I planted several Yopons because I wanted to have it. Never come. This year, there are three that are hanging out in the area, and I'll see them. But this morning, after I'd opened my eyes, there were three that came and were eating on the berries from the Mahonia, which are ripe right now. And I thought, cool. And then there was a robin that had taken a bath in the stream, and you know how they shake off, and they're kind of fun to watch when they're shaking off and getting all uh, dry from their bath, you know. And I thought, so much of the time when I'm sitting, I'm doing something. I'm either at the computer or I'm watching TV. And I had this thought, you know, we're used to sitting and having a lot happen in front of our eyes, like watching TV or watching a movie. But really, what's important is just to wait to be still and wait, and then something will come. How different it is just sitting, from our everyday life. So I just had that thought, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's
No, that's beautiful, Julia. I think that's like one of the reasons I always encourage when I'm working with folks, whether it's the birdsong class, masters, whatever, like to, as much as they can, get away from their bird feeders to observe the birds, because a bird feeder is like a television set. It's so busy and so active, and the birds, and it's not like a bad thing. I mean, it's awesome. It's so cool. It's so fun to watch birds at your bird feeder, but it's not like their typical behavior, and it's just like constantly active with birds, if you've got a good feeder and whatever, it's the right time of year. Um, but yeah, like it's a different pace when you're just like sitting out in your garden or sitting in nature somewhere, and a difference, because oftentimes I'll have people tell me they're just like, because they go and they sit in a sit spot out in the woods, different from like the sitting at their house, and they're just like, Kristi, there's no birds, there's just no birds in my woods. And then I asked them, I said, do you have a bird feeder at home? Like, yeah. And I said, all right, you're gonna have to get used to a bird not showing up every 3 seconds. Like in nature, sometimes you have to wait like many minutes, sometimes even longer, for a bird to show up, because their rhythm is just different than what we're used to at our feeders. Yeah. Yeah, what a beautiful gift to offer that to us, Julia. Thank you. The piece about learning to wait and just allow things to show up. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to mute myself as much as possible because some landscaper showed up next door. I don't know if you guys can hear it or not. Was there some? Oh, Gabrielle, you wanted to say something. I just gave you the button. Yeah.
I just wanted to add, and this follows what Julia was saying. The word interesting, you said, oh, you'll see something interesting. And I thought, well, I find everything interesting. So I'm not really sure it's the intuition that there's something interesting. And one of the ones was I have a overflow canal behind my house from the ocean. And I wanted to look in that direction, and I looked, and it's a little bit windy. And it was the flow of the water that I just found so interesting. And I'm like, but my mind's going, well, is that right? Is that what I felt? So anyway, I
Yeah.
think curiosity and interest has a lot to do with our intuition too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you go to practice this or play this like on your own, you can ask whatever question you want, something that will help you to know, like, was it an intuitive thing or was it not? Like that was just sort of the most generic thing I could think that would give the most people the opportunity to see something this morning, but for you, when you play with this on your own, like ask your own questions, like so whatever is interesting to you, like to ask the world about. Yeah. Anyone else want to share their experience from this morning? All right, Jackie, and then I think we'll be good.
Um, well, I have recently found myself in the swamp of an interaction with a friend and kind of looking for the path out of that. And listening to your story and going, ooh, how do you learn to trust that when sometimes it hasn't worked out, when you thought you were doing something that was safe and it turned out not to be. But what happened was I did just ask the question of how do I find the path out of this swamp? And then I had the urge to open my eyes and I saw a reflection of roses in my yard in the window and um, and thought about that for a while. And then when I closed my eyes and I opened them again, then I looked at the actual roses. And um, and the person's name is Rose. So, there's a part of me, I have a liberal arts and a science background. So there's the part of me that can be so skeptical about these things. And yet, when I really try to open myself up to it, and I'm just trying to develop that openness more to that because I think it's really helpful to do that. And I just love, all the things that we're learning here that we just can apply to our lives in general, not just to birds. So I'm very grateful for that. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, Jackie, thank you. And that's, I like how you sort of shifted around like the swamp of this situation, like how do you find the path out in that? And that is the beautiful thing when we start to, connect with the natural world that I don't know. I feel like someone was talking about this the other day about how, oh, actually, it was, I was reading one of the house I'm at right now has a bunch of books here, and one of them is Aesop's Fables, the ancient like fables by Aesop. I think they were the one that wrote the rabbit and the tortoise and the rabbit or whatever, the hare and the tortoise. But there's this one in there where this man goes out toward the forest and he sees this beautiful woman, and the woman is Truth. And he said, "Who are you?" And she said, "My name is Truth. I'm Truth." And he said, "Well, why are you all the way out here, like out in the wilderness, away from all the people?" And she said, "Well, I spent my time amongst man." And I realized that in order to like find myself or something along those lines, like I had to come to the wilderness, like that the truth actually resides in the wilderness. And um, yeah, I feel like nature has the answers that we're seeking if we can learn to listen. And um yeah, and you don't have to believe it, take it or leave it. Like if um yeah, I how do I want to say this? That you could just try this on, see if it fits for you, and if it does, like awesome, go deeper with it. For me, I found this to be like a very rich practice in my life. Other people might just be like, nope, not going there, like science all the way, or like you got to prove it to me or something like that. And that's fine. Like yeah, I'm skeptical of things as well. And I think that's good to have that skepticism or just like questioning. Um, but man, I was so grateful that I had been practicing this when I was in the swamp that day because I was just like, my brain's not going to get me out of here. There's no data that's going to get me out of this swamp right now. I mean, maybe I guess if I knew more, it might. But yeah, I was just grateful for having this practice for myself. Mhm.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Linda, go for it. I see your hand up. Yeah.
Just a really quick story. This isn't like about me. It's about a friend of mine when I was in Colorado who loved to cross country ski in the Colorado mountains on his own. And he was cross country skiing up there one day, got caught in a terrible blizzard. And that's the starlings that are here that you behind me. But anyway, he got caught in this terrible blizzard, got totally turned around, had no idea how to get back, didn't know how to do he wasn't prepared to stay. He didn't have enough food. He didn't know how to do a ice cave. Um, and so it was starting to get dark. And he looked across the horizon. Everything was all white, but he thought he saw something. And he didn't know what it was. And he was at a point where it was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but this isn't going to be good. But he walked over to pee near where he saw something. It turned out to be a snowy owl sitting on a sign, a Forest Service trail sign, which was a trail that he was trying to find out that led to the parking lot where his car was parked. Isn't that incredible? I was just like,
Yes.
yeah. And he wasn't he was a, he was an airline, or what do they call the people in the airports that guide the planes in? Air traffic controller. He was very disciplined and scientific and, athletic and, but he loved owls. And then here was the snowy owl, and they do migrate south in the wintertime sometimes. We get them here in Montana too, but in Colorado, we even used to get them just sitting on the sign. And what he had seen from a distance was the top of the Forest Service sign. So,
Yes, well, and I'm so glad you told that story because like that there's so much in that. And a piece of it is that like, so we're talking about like sort of like emergency situations here, and it
yeah,
doesn't always have to be that, but like
right.
let's just say that there is a situation like that we're in sort of like what feels dire, it feels life threatening, it feels like, oh my God, like this is a blizzard, it's getting to be nighttime, I might not get out of this. And it's sort of like in those moments when we can really sort of quiet ourselves. Like oftentimes people have the most like the deep epiphanies when they go pee or poop in the woods, because that's when they're not thinking, right?
Yeah.
And so oftentimes like our intuition will just guide us to do like these things that don't seem like they make any sense, right? It often is just like, why would I go pee over there? Like it doesn't seem safe, or it doesn't seem whatever, like maybe not safe, but it doesn't often make sense. And then you go and you're like, oh, there's a snowy owl. Isn't that cool? Like it's the snowy owl that guides you to like the sign, So it's those things where like, I think just, that's the trust piece, is sometimes trusting the thing that doesn't seem to make any sense, where it's just
Mhm.
like, I'm stuck in the swamp right now. Like, why would I focus my attention on this like pretty plant? Like, I got to get out of here. It's like stressful. I got to, whatever. But like when I could quiet my mind, I think that's what it was. I think like after I'd asked the question, I was still feeling anxious. But then I looked over and I was like, it really is pretty here. And I was like, look, there's this like pretty plant. And I was like, wait a minute, that's a deer trail. And so like my mind had to get quiet and just get back into like sort of almost that childlike curiosity and wonder about life. Like it sounds like your friend to some degree did
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's beautiful, Linda. Thank you for that story. Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
cool.
I know. That's,
Yeah.
I've thought of it many times when I'm up in the mountains, it just makes me feel reassured that about you don't have to know everything and figure everything out. You can trust guidance.
Yeah. 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 High five. Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining today. And again, take it or leave it, take it wherever you want to go. If you have some cool stories you want to share next time of things you've tried, then bring your story next week. And I think we're on for next week. No holidays or any wild stuff coming up. So have a beautiful week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, much love. Bye bye.